But we got everyone going. So we have today's event we're talking about is building a high performing team and the importance of picking first hires and culture. I can speak as many of your mentors can about building companies and getting that first follower. And I would say first follower extends beyond just your first co-founder, although that is really, really important. But even when the two, three, four, however many co-founders you are of create the vision, start to build it out, then you got to convince employees to work for you, right? Which is a really interesting thing as an employee. I've been an employer almost 20 years. When you think about going out in the marketplace and trying to find, especially in what we're doing here, AI, Web3, really highly skilled people. It's an interesting filter, right? Because you need people who are very high performing objectively. You need people who are interested in what you're doing. You need people who are willing to work for you or with you, right? I always say people work with me, and then willing to work at a startup. And so that is a very narrow funnel when you get down through the workforce of people, because they could work at a big corporate bank or they could take a lot of risk. And I think a big part of that is certainly mitigating the risk in terms of the vision, the direction, the milestones, et cetera, as we've been talking about in our cohort here. So we've got a speaker here today, Mike, who can talk a little bit about this, and I think we'll have him start, and then we'll talk after with some Q&A and then some input from all the CSC mentors and other people about their experience shares and what they've done in building their companies, and even some of yours. I know some of you in this cohort are not first-time entrepreneurs either. So with that, Mike, if you would like to get started,
Sure.
I'll let you go.
Yeah, and
I'm
and,
happy
and I'll,
to.
I'll just say just a brief intro, only because I've known Mike for a long time, and I think him, and his company AC Lion, have been helping people build, great teams. They helped me at my second startup, Bolt, more than 20 years ago. So these guys have been around. They've learned a lot of lessons. So I'm excited about what they have to share with us.
Thanks, Lou. Really appreciate it. Okay, so let me share my screen. Um, find. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So I don't know really the context of backgrounds of a lot of the executives for some of these companies. Some of them might be first-time founders, but really the main focus that I like talking to companies about is really about process. So I'm not going to go very deep into process, but just wanted to be able to walk you through the things that you should be thinking about so you don't make mistakes. I've learned over the last 20 plus years. I'll go through my background in a second, but most of the companies that I invested in, that I advised, that I've worked with, a lot of them really did not take hiring seriously. They didn't really have a process in place. They didn't know how to. And most of the companies that I invested in that I was not super hands-on failed because they went with their gut. They didn't have a process. They hired random people. Hey, my friend who was in business school with me, he'll do a great job. Comes in, misaligned expectations. And that's really what I've learned is the discipline that an individual needs. So we'll start here. Welcome to all of the companies in the Accelerator. If you're a first-time founder, look, the toughest job is leaving a cushy job in corporate America or a bigger company like a Google or Facebook or Meta or any of these companies, guaranteed paycheck and working for someone else. And now you're starting on your own journey. Okay. Pat yourself on the back. You're part of a few who are willing to take on this huge risk going from startup to corporation. Now you are on the journey. And this journey, has a lot of winding roads, and there's a lot that you have to deal with. Support from your family and friends, crazy hiring decisions. You need to build a great product. You need to raise money, long hours, no sleep, figure out product
Hey,
market.
Mike.
Yeah.
Mike, can you make it a slideshow that'll make it just a little bit bigger?
Oh, yes. My bad. Hold on. Layout. Hold on. Let me figure out. Anyone, reading notes?
I think upstairs it says it says slideshow.
Oh yeah, hold on. Side master? Nope, oh, nope, hold on, my bad. Haven't done this in a while from my computer. All right, is that better?
Yes,
Yeah.
there we go.
So, I mean, there's so many decisions that you have to make. And every decision, can take you on a different path. You need great mentors, you need great advisors, navigating the market. You build a product and you have to make a quick pivot. These are all the things that you have to prepare for. So just, you got to stay on course, stay positive, and most of the executives who started companies, they failed before, so you have to learn quickly from that. Okay, my background, high level, 20 years. I spent first 8 years in investment banking, raising money for media technology companies. I was at Salesforce Boston, Bank of America, TD Securities, and then I left raising money for these huge companies, and I went to run an incubator in New York. So basically, what happened was I went from doing all that to sitting down with an executive like yourself and having to figure out, hey, can we build this company? So we had the decision of I had 100 million from CIBC, 100 million from Nortel, and we were building companies from scratch. And I had to learn myself. I wasn't building teams. I wasn't hiring people from day one. And it was a tough process that I learned over time. I ran an incubator for 3 years, and then over the last 20 years, I'm a partner in an executive search firm. I run my own fund, which is ACLVP, and then I moved into the Web3 space in 2019, working for a large leading digital collectibles company called Vivi. Work with Disney, Marvel. I'm launching my own Ordinals Collective, but also my main thing is investing and advising and helping companies scale. And that's really where my main focus is. Okay, so that's my background. Okay, so key to startup success. You need money, okay? You need to build a good product. Those things are important. But really, what I've learned, and I always believe in it, is human capital. Finding the right employees is crucial to your success, especially as a founder. I look at it as like building a house. If you're building a house and you don't have a good foundation, your house is eventually going to crumble. One person leaves, two people leave, no redundancies. You got to make sure that you're always looking for talent, and that's really, really important. And look, just like fundraising, hiring people, recruiting is very competitive. It takes time, and depending on the market, sometimes it's a lot more challenging than other times in itself. But the hardest thing is you really have to make sure that you're focused and that you're dedicating the right time for it. So hiring, as a founder, I look at it, it's one of the most important skills as a founder. It's all about people. You need to take it seriously. You always have to think about hiring, and hiring amazing talent is both difficult, but you also have to figure out how much time you're going to spend at hiring. And some executives have to spend 80 and 90% of their time making sure that not only they're hiring, but they're retaining the right people. So here's just, some CEOs, talking about biggest hiring challenges for startup is in communication. I'm always telling my startups not to feel rushed. A lot of executives feel rushed. They close the big round. I'm going to go out and hire a bunch of people, but just don't hire someone just because you desperately need to fill the position. You need to figure out org chart, why you're hiring a specific role. Make sure that everyone's bought into what you need to do, and also what Charles said before. Taking people from big companies to startup companies. A lot of times it's not an easy transition for people to go from a big company to a smaller company. So here we go. I'm just going to talk about some things that you think about, and there's a methodology that I've used over the last 15 years. So when you're ready to hire, you really have to think about the time it's going to take. Do you have a hiring strategy? Do you have a formal process in place? And really, have you contemplated what happens if you hire the wrong person, and what's that cost associated with it? So a lot of companies that hire, there's a lot of reasons why executives make hiring mistakes. They're hiring too soon, overlooking culture fit, not having a structured process, holding out for the perfect candidate, not checking references. I have a lot of companies that I work with now, they don't check references. They interview a candidate, everything's good. But what I've learned is that if you get on the phone with references, there are certain things that you can find out with the questions that you ask. Not having good onboarding program. A lot of candidates, a lot of companies fail hiring good people is because they don't really realize, okay, I hired a great person. The first 90 days is a huge transition for you, but it's a big transition for the candidate. And a lot of times, if you hire somebody and in your gut, within the first 30, 60 days, it's not right, you need to figure out how you're going to fire them. Not having a clear idea of what you want, not having a deep backup candidate or plan. You fall in love with a candidate, they don't accept the job. How are you going to find somebody else? You got to make sure you have people behind that. So asking the wrong questions, not thoroughly vetting candidates, having too many people involved in the process, and really a big issue with startups is that you fall in love with a candidate you really can't afford. They need a $500,000 base. They want 5% equity, and you can't afford it. So these are just some common hiring mistakes you just got to be aware of. And causes and costs of a bad hire. People don't realize that, it can take a long time to recover from a bad hire. A bad hire can cost 15 times their base salary. And also I look at it, if you hire the wrong person, especially the wrong seller, you expect them to go into market, they don't close business. You're looking to close your next round, a Series A, a Series B. You fall behind, and it really just hurts your valuation. It hurts your credibility in the market. So there's a lot of reasons, there's a cause for bad hires. And it goes way beyond cash. Lost productivity, lost time due to recruiting and training, especially if you're a CEO of a company and you have a really small team and you're pulled in a lot of different directions. You need to make sure the product is finished. You're trying to figure out your go-to-market. You're trying to figure out your marketing, your sales strategy. You need to figure out the operations of your company, and you're spending all your time with one executive. They don't work out. That's time lost, valuable time that you lost, and it can negatively impact employee morale. But also, especially in an early stage company, if you hire 3 or 4 people and 2 of those people leave, it could be a poor reflection on you, but also it could take time for you to bounce back from that. So it goes way beyond cash. And you want to keep a positive morale with your employees and all that. So this is the important thing that I want to distill, is that the hiring process is really your friend. The process can be overwhelming and time consuming. Process is not a sexy word, but there's nothing more dull than working without one. And a structured hiring process in place will ensure that you hire the right people for the right job the first time around. You want to avoid mistakes. You want efficiency. You want timely hiring. So here's just a formal hiring process that if I work with a company, I help them work through. It's a 7-stage process where you need to come up with a strategy, process, branding, how you're going to brand, how you're going to attract candidates, brief consultation, you define your roles. This is really important, an expectation document. A lot of times when a candidate is about to accept a job, you sit down with them and your expectations are misaligned. Make sure that's aligned up front, write a good job description. And then from a sourcing standpoint, networking, referral, now there's new AI tools, there's a lot of databases. Stage 4, screening candidates, phone screens, follow-up rounds, then come up with a nice short list, criteria check, finalists chosen, and then you want to do a reference check. And you want to make sure that you're doing reference checks, really important. Then you have to, present, negotiate, which is a big part of it. Then they accept, but it doesn't end there. Stage 7 is really important that a lot of people don't really realize. You have to onboard them to make sure they're getting trained, make sure they're learning the product, make sure they can go to market with the right background and all that. And a lot of times, candidates fall through the cracks. And within, 30, 60 days, you're so busy, you're trying to raise another round, you're trying to, get your product ready to go to market. You don't sit down and the candidate just might not be happy. So this is just a formal hiring process. And, most people out there, look, you want A players. They're fully self-sufficient. They can take initiative. They're going to make your life a lot easier. But once you start going on the process, you're not hiring the right people. You have B players, you have C players, you have D players. They're poor performers. They're sucking up your time. They're not self-sufficient. And it really is going to make your job a lot tougher. So even if you took another 30 days, 60 days to make sure you're hiring the right person, you don't realize how much time you're going to lose hiring the wrong person or the wrong team. Good enough is the enemy of great. So every person you hire who is not a top player is like having a leak in your hull. Eventually, you're going to sink. And I don't want you to be in that situation. So there's a book that I read that I would advise everyone at some point to read. It's called The Who, the A Method for Hiring. They've worked with hundreds of big companies and small companies, and this is the way they outline their hiring method. They have their own scorecard. They come up with their own sourcing, selecting, how you have to sell, and then successful hiring process. So not to take up more time around this, but this is it's Jeff Smart and Randy Street. It's Who, the A Method for Hiring. And really, they go through some really great, and I use this today when I'm talking to candidates. They have 3 or 4 different type of interviews. They have a screening interview, which I still always use, which is great. They have a top grading interview. And then there's a reference interview. And this is just putting the right process in place, which, you can read this and I can share this, or if you can get the book and read it, I think it'd be very helpful. And then the recruiting process, same, building a brand. People just don't think about it. You have to write a good job description. That job description helps you sell the company. And most candidates want to understand what the job is all about. Sourcing, where you're going to get it from. As you start scaling, you want an ATS, which is an applicant tracking system, because you don't want, if you put up a job posting and all of them come into your inbox, you need some structure of where all these candidates are going to go. And an ATS helps you do that. And then if you put up a role for CTO, you get, or engineering, and you hire 2-3 people, the good thing about an ATS is you'll have a whole depository of candidates that if you want to keep hiring in the future, you can just go back to. So this is just a high level, continuing on the recruiting process. And then, like I said before, when it comes to hiring time, references, you want to make sure you're getting 3 references. You want to make sure that, you understand up front, when you're going to give an offer, what are they looking for compensation wise? You have to be prepared to negotiate. It's not easy. When you look at compensation, there's 3 levers. There's base, there's bonus and equity, and understanding what a person is looking for can definitely help you out in the process. And then again, onboarding, make sure you have a process, focus on socialization, especially the big issue now is, everyone, I guess most of the companies here are remote. How do you build a good culture? It's very challenging when you're not in the same office where you can, just walk over, you can do a whiteboard session, all of that. And a lot of times people aren't meeting, you're not going out for dinner, you're not going out for drinks. And there's a lack of socialization, which makes it challenging for a lot of executives to be able to, feel like it's a close-knit family as you want to try to build. So here's just, some basics on, how to manage, a newer age of employees, millennials and baby boomers. Look, the big issue is, it's a lot different, especially when you're not in the same office. So there's a lot of things here that, I'll share this presentation with you. They can look at, going back to remote employees, it's challenging. For the most part of my career, I was in an office 5 days a week. Pandemic hit, we closed down our office, and it's been 3 or 4 years. And we try to get together, but it's challenging, and a lot of people aren't super motivated to be able to work in their house, or they're not set up right You know, you might have an apartment in New York with 2 other roommates and it's really small, and finding the right places to work and being productive, this is something else you have to keep in mind. And then understanding why employees leave. You know, either there's a lot of reasons, you know, it could be not a great environment, they're not getting the right recognition. You know, in good markets where, you know, engineers are getting called, you know, 10 times a month for new jobs. It can be wages, you know, the company pivots, you know, they're not getting the right training, lack of balance between work-life balance. You know, there's changes in goals. There's a lot of reasons as an executive you should think about, and why employees leave, and be proactive to understand that if you are doing the right things, you know, you won't have the same amount of turnover, because nobody wants turnover. Look, people are going to leave, but you have to realize why they're leaving. And if they do, you want to do some type of exit interview as well. You know, signs you hired the wrong person. Look, it's not easy to figure it out. You know, you can really see based on productivity if someone is engaged. You know, you give them stuff to do, and you know they're not delivering. You know, they can't produce quality work. All the different things. So there are some things you can do before, and there are a lot of companies out there that will give an assignment prior to hiring the person. And the important thing there is that you kind of like you can date before you marry. You know, even if you have to pay them to do the assignment, you'll see what their quality of work is. And I'm always a big proponent of giving them some type of test or project. You know, maybe it's a couple of weeks. It could really save you from hiring a person that's not fully aligned. That's not going to work out. So that's really the high level. This is just more about my firm. You know, we've been in business for 26 years, and we work across all different verticals. Web3, blockchain is a big vertical that we work in as well. These are the areas that we're really specialized in. Everything but technology, but have built hundreds of sales teams, hundreds of marketing teams, client services, product, all of that. We have our own process for hiring that I'm happy to walk anyone through. And these are the type of companies that we've worked with. You know, this is in the fintech space, blockchain, but Web 2, Web 3 companies across the board, Google's, Meta's of the world, Apple's of the world, but a lot of early stage companies. We do a lot of US market entry. And that's really the high level of our firm. So I just wanted to give you an overview, and I can open up to any questions. I ran through that pretty quickly. But it comes back to process. I'm really, you should think about it. The process is really important. And I'm happy to, you know, take any calls or answer any questions, because I've seen every executive make mistakes. I've seen companies that raised hundreds of millions of dollars that just hired poorly and took their company under.
So thank you a lot. There was a lot there to digest, a lot of great stuff. One of the things that you had on one of the slides, you talked about a 90-day review. Can you
Yep.
talk about what that's about? Because, you know, I think, you know, people hire people and now everybody's got employees. Now what?
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of companies have, bigger companies, they have a probation period. But I have companies that will do a check-in within 30, 60, 90 days. But a big issue is a lot of people hire somebody and then you move on. You're moving on to the next task. And you think that person's going to be able to, you know, come on board, read your mind, understand what needs to be done. And that's what it comes back to. I believe in an expectation document. So basically what I do is, even for the job description, I will write a one-page overview. The one-page overview will be title, reporting structure, what are the key things they need to do, what are their KPIs? Because the way I look at it is, if you're hiring someone, looking back a year from now, how do you know it was a good hire? What are the KPIs that you're going to tie to this hire to look at what is a successful hire and what's not a successful hire? And it's the same thing within 90 days. Most people know within 30, 60 days if the person's going to work out. And a lot of people will turn their head away, but you'll know within 90 days if you can work with this person, how they take feedback, Are they getting things done? Are they organized? And a big issue is taking someone from a big company where they have massive amounts of resources and then basically giving them no resources. A lot of people can't adapt. So I think within 90 days, if you have a checklist of what you have to go through, but you have to touch base with them, especially if they're remote, you can't just hire somebody and let them go. You need to stay on top of them because once it hits 90 days, you're in a much better situation for them to be there longer term.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
I'll just go for it. Sorry, I can't get on video. Thank you for such a very wonderful presentation. I think that a lot of CEOs we tend to focus on marketing, maybe engineering and product, and we don't do like hiring very well. And just because it doesn't seem to be like, very important. But if you want to give us two questions, you want to give us some bit of framework around hiring, like top of the finger framework around hiring that we can easily like play with. What are the three most important things you want to take a look at? If you can share that, that would be very, very awesome. And then the second question is, fine, you made a bad hire, and I think you're right. You would probably know when somebody would work out within 30 days. And then the question is, if the person at a startup level like this, when you're still a very young company, every hire is important. And you're trying to balance between, making a super fast decision to balancing the emotions of the team, how people feel about, somebody coming and go out and it's going to be me next and stuff like that. How would you advise, is there a method that you would advise, companies very early stage to essentially, usher out an important role that is not working out for someone?
So on that, I think the important things upfront is expectation document, not just for you, but for the other executives that are making a part of the hiring decision. The challenge is, if you don't have a good process as far as how you're going to vet out a candidate, so your background might be technical. You never hired a salesperson before. So either you have someone on the team that has done it before, or you maybe find an advisor that has built a sales team before to ask the right questions. I think that's really key. And then after, I think having taken detailed notes and coming up with a consensus of how you're going to make the right decision is, I think, a big part of the process. I think it's really important that if you, like, I found a lot of technical founders really don't have experience building sales teams. They don't have experience building marketing teams. It's a whole different discipline. You don't need a seller, in an office, behind a desk all day coding. You need a seller out there in market, meeting with prospective clients. It's a whole different ballgame. So it's a different mentality. So I do think bringing on advisors is going to be very important, and bringing them in the interview process. But also, if you do have co-founders, I think you and your co-founders have to be on the same page when it comes to hiring anyone. So if you do an expectation document in a job description, make sure it's signed off before. And then also another area I think important is when you're going to do an interview process, split up questions and tasks. Maybe someone will ask about personality. Maybe someone will ask about the background. Maybe someone will ask about their accomplishments and what they did. And also, when you find out when you're hiring salespeople are a lot different than a technical interview with a developer. Most sellers, excuse me, a lot of them are bullshit artists, and they'll tell you they're selling you on themselves. But as you go deeper and you ask the right questions, hey, can you walk me through how you got to that client? You closed Coke. Okay, walk me through the process. Who'd you talk to at Coke? Ask very detailed, pointed questions. And then you'll see if someone has, done what they said they did. And also, when it comes to resumes, a resume is written by the candidate. A LinkedIn profile is written by the candidate. You're trying to put yourself in the best light, but you have to really look at the push and pulls of why someone left a job. If they got pushed out versus pulled out. And there's a big difference there, because if you look in a resume, person graduated in 2010, they had 12 jobs. Even though they were great companies, it's a lot of jobs in 12 years. So at some point you have to question, are they making the wrong decision or are they not producing? So a lot of those things are really important to look in the process. I know it was a long answer to your question, but I think you really make sure you have good advisors and good people around you that can help you screen, vet out candidates if it's not your discipline. Anything else? I'm here to answer any questions.
So I think we've got Mr. Kanan, we've got Matt, we've got a few people with their hands raised here. Dele. So
Yeah.
why don't we go with
Yeah.
first in order.
Look at the chat.
Yeah,
Dele,
what,
right?
Do it.
Mr. Kanan.
one moment, please. It looks like we might be running out of time for this meeting. This is a new account, it's a restricted account, and we have about a minute left.
Ooh.
Okay.
In the process of trying to upgrade it, but it may actually cut everybody off if I don't complete that in time.
I mean, I can set up actually, there's a lot of people. I can
Why don't we,
Zoom
why don't-
account.
Alan, why don't you just set another one up? Because it's the same URL, right? If it kicks us off, we're gonna jump right back on. Take 2 seconds rather than circling
Yeah.
us.
Okay, we
That's
can do
easy for
that, but
everyone.
just to give everybody the heads up.
Yeah, so why don't we do that? Just set another one. and
I've
everyone-
Well,
Tom,
also, I
nothing
know
to-
I can log back on because I know my account will be able to reboot everybody and everybody has that.
Okay, which
the other
are we going to yours, Lou, or are we staying on this one?
Yeah, the link, whichever one you want to do, but
I'll hop
we
back
can
on
do
to the
that tonight.
first one.
Yeah.
Everybody has this link, so
Yeah, go ahead, Alan.
Okay.
Schedule it, make it for, through the end of the hour. And then if we get dropped off here in a few seconds, we'll come right back on it. And we'll get this all cleaned up by next week, everyone. So we
Yes.
don't have this stuff happening.
So get back on the initial one or this one.
This one, because everyone's got this one. So if Alan's
Okay.
making another meeting, it's just easier.
yeah, I'll just restart it.
Less than 1 minute. I don't know what's gonna happen if it's gonna drop us. Let's see. I'm interested.
All right, I'm gonna leave and just get back in.
Okay.
Okay, let's